In a small, quiet town, there was an animal shelter that was often crowded and noisy. People came and went, mostly looking for playful puppies and energetic young dogs. The volunteers worked hard to care for all the animals, cleaning their cages, feeding them, and giving them small walks in the yard. Yet, even with all the attention, some of the dogs went unnoticed. Among them was an old German shepherd named Bruno. Bruno had once been strong and full of energy. His fur was now a mix of gray and black, and his movements were slower than they used to be. His eyes, however, told a different story. They were kind and full of gentle wisdom, showing the life he had lived and the love he had once given. He often sat quietly in the corner of his small pen, watching the world go by. People rarely noticed him. Most visitors walked straight past Bruno, attracted only to the bright eyes and tiny paws of the puppies who ran and jumped excitedly. Volunteers sometimes tried to encourage people to visit the older dogs, but it rarely worked. People want young dogs, one volunteer said to another. They don't usually adopt dogs his age. It is sad, but it is true. Bruno wagged his tail whenever someone came near, but it was slow and careful. He had learned not to hope too much. Every day, he watched dogs being taken home while he remained behind. Sometimes, when the shelter was quiet, Bruno would let out a soft sigh and rest his head on his paws. He was patient and loyal, but he also longed for someone to notice him, someone who would care for him and see the gentle heart that still beat strongly inside him. One sunny morning, a little boy named Liam arrived at the shelter with his mother. Liam was 7 years old, full of curiosity and energy. He had visited the shelter many times before, always wanting to play with the puppies and kittens. Today, however, something felt different. Liam's mother noticed that he was walking more slowly than usual, looking around carefully at all the animals. As soon as Liam entered the main hall of the shelter, he saw the puppies running and barking, the kittens jumping inside their small cages, and the volunteers busy with chores. But Liam's attention was drawn to a quiet corner where a gray-haired German shepherd sat. Bruno was watching him carefully, his tail giving a small, slow wag. Liam walked closer, his eyes wide with curiosity. He knelt down near the pen, keeping his movements calm and gentle. "Hello, old boy," Liam said softly. Bruno sniffed the air and slowly approached Liam's hand. He pressed his nose against Liam's palm, and for a moment, the world seemed to stop. Liam smiled, feeling an instant connection. His mother watched from a distance, surprised at how focused Liam was. She knew that Liam loved animals, but she had never seen him stop so quickly for an older dog. "Mom, he looks lonely," Liam said. "Can we spend some time with him?" His mother nodded, smiling. "Of course, Liam, let's sit with him for a while." Liam gently opened the pen door, and Bruno stepped forward carefully, unsure at first, but trusting the boy's calm voice. Liam patted the floor, inviting him to come closer. Bruno lowered his head slightly and walked toward Liam, his paws making soft sounds on the clean floor. He sat down near Liam, resting his head on the boy's knees. Liam laughed softly and stroked Bruno's fur, feeling the rough texture that told of Bruno's many years of life. For the first time in a long while, Bruno felt truly seen. Liam did not care that he was old or slow. He did not care that Bruno had gray fur or tired eyes. All Liam saw was a friend who needed love and attention. And Bruno, in turn, felt a warmth in his chest that he had not felt for many months. Other children ran around the shelter, laughing and shouting as they played with the young dogs. Volunteers guided people from cage to cage, explaining the history of each animal and encouraging them to meet the animals they had not noticed before. But Liam stayed with Bruno. He whispered stories about his day, shared tiny bits of his sandwich, and spoke softly to Bruno about things that mattered to him. Bruno listened attentively, his tail giving slow, happy wags. The bond between Liam and Bruno grew stronger with each passing minute. Bruno began to nuzzle Liam's hand, pressing his head gently against the boy. Liam laughed and hugged Bruno carefully, making sure not to hurt the old dog. The volunteers watched quietly, amazed at the connection forming before their eyes. It was rare for a child to sit with an older dog for so long, but Liam seemed to understand something that others did not. He understood that Bruno still had a lot of love to give, and that he deserved to be noticed. Liam's mother decided to sit nearby, reading quietly while letting her son enjoy his time with Bruno. She saw how happy Liam was and realized that this was a special moment. Bruno's eyes sparkled with a gentle light, and Liam's laughter filled the corner of the shelter. It was a small scene, but it was full of life and warmth. As the day went on, more visitors came to the shelter. Many ignored Bruno, walking past quickly to see the younger dogs. Yet Liam did not move. He stayed with Bruno, telling him about his favorite games, the stories he read at school, and even about the small adventures he had in his backyard. Bruno listened patiently, his head resting on Liam's shoulder at times, feeling comforted and happy. Finally, one of the volunteers approached Liam. "He seems to really like you," she said softly. "Not many people take the time to sit with him. You are giving him a very special gift." Liam smiled and nodded. "I think he is amazing," he said. "I want him to be happy. I think we can be friends forever." Bruno wagged his tail gently, as if he understood every word. He had waited for someone like Liam for a long time, and now that he had found him, his heart felt lighter. The shelter was full of noise and activity. but in that small corner, it felt calm and peaceful. Liam and Bruno shared a quiet understanding, a connection that went beyond words. That, as the sun began to lower in the sky, Liam's mother said it was time to go. Liam looked at Bruno and whispered, "I will come back soon. Don't forget me, okay?" Bruno lifted his head and gave a soft, happy bark. It was his way of saying, "I will never forget you." When they left the shelter, Liam held his mother's hand tightly, thinking about the old German shepherd who had stolen his heart. Bruno returned to his corner, lying down with a soft sigh, but this time it was different. It was a sigh of contentment. He had met someone who saw him for who he truly was, someone who understood that love does not have an age, and friendship does not depend on energy or looks. And so, a quiet friendship began, one that would change both the little boy and the old German shepherd in ways that neither of them could have imagined. Bruno had waited patiently for a long time, and now his patience was finally rewarded. The next morning, Liam woke up early with a bright smile on his face. He could not stop thinking about Bruno, the old German shepherd he had met yesterday. The memory of Bruno's gentle eyes and calm presence stayed with him. Liam's mother noticed his excitement as he ate breakfast. "Mom, can we go to the shelter today? I want to see Bruno again," Liam asked eagerly. His mother looked at him with a soft smile. "Of course, Liam, I think it is a good idea. You seem very happy when you are with him." By the time they arrived at the shelter, the morning sun was shining and the air was fresh. Volunteers were busy feeding the animals and cleaning the pens. Bruno was already awake, sitting near the corner of his pen. When he saw Liam, his tail began to wag slowly, and he let out a soft, happy bark. Liam ran to him and knelt down on the floor. "Hello, Bruno. I am back," he said cheerfully. Bruno stepped closer and pressed his head against Liam's shoulder. It was a simple gesture, but it spoke volumes. The bond between the boy and the dog was growing stronger with each visit. Liam's mother stayed nearby, watching quietly as her son and Bruno spent time together. Liam brought a small toy with him that he had found at home. It was a soft, worn-out ball, but he knew Bruno would enjoy it. He rolled the ball toward Bruno, who sniffed it carefully before nudging it back with his nose. Liam laughed, delighted that Bruno wanted to play. After some time, Liam began talking to Bruno in his soft, gentle voice. He told him about the books he had read the night before, the games he had played with his friends, and the small adventures in his backyard. Bruno listened patiently, tilting his head at times, and even giving soft barks as if he understood every word. Volunteers watched the scene with admiration. They had seen many children visit the shelter, but Liam's patience and kindness were different. He did not rush, he did not demand attention, and he did not leave when Bruno was slow to respond. Instead, he stayed with him, talking, playing, and simply being present. One volunteer, named Clara, approached Liam and whispered, "You have a special way with him. Liam, Bruno has waited a long time for someone like you." Liam smiled and nodded. "I think he is amazing. He deserves love just like any other dog." As the morning went on, other children came to the shelter, excited to play with the puppies and kittens. Many of them did not even notice Bruno in his quiet corner. Yet Liam remained by his side, encouraging him gently. He brushed Bruno's fur with his small hand, making soft, careful strokes. Bruno leaned into the boy's touch, feeling safe and happy. After a while, Liam had an idea. He asked his mother if they could take Bruno out for a small walk around the shelter yard. His mother agreed, and the volunteers helped secure Bruno's leash. Slowly, Bruno stood up and followed Liam to the door. Each step was careful, but there was excitement in his movements. He seemed to understand that something wonderful was happening once outside. Liam ran ahead slightly, encouraging Bruno to follow. The old German shepherd moved steadily, his tail wagging slowly but happily. Liam laughed with joy. "Come on, Bruno, let's explore." Bruno sniffed the grass and flowers, his eyes bright with curiosity. It had been a long time since he had felt the wind in his fur or the warmth of the sun on his back. They walked together around the yard, Liam chatting and Bruno listening attentively. Other visitors in the yard noticed the pair and smiled. There was something special about the boy and the dog, a connection that was visible to anyone who looked. Bruno seemed to come alive with Liam's presence, his movements more confident. His spirit lifted after the walk. Liam sat down on a small bench, patting Bruno gently. "You are my friend, Bruno," he said softly. Bruno leaned his head against Liam's lap, closing his eyes for a moment. Liam's mother watched the scene, her heart full of warmth. She could see that this friendship was changing both Liam and Bruno in ways that were beautiful and unexpected. As the day went on, Liam began to notice other things about Bruno. The old dog had scars on his legs, and his teeth were not as strong as they used to be. Yet despite his age and small ailments, Bruno had a heart full of love. Liam felt even more determined to spend time with him, to make him feel happy and cared for. The volunteers helped Liam understand Bruno's history. He had come to the shelter months ago after his previous owner could no longer care for him. Since then, he had been waiting patiently, watching other dogs get adopted while he stayed behind. Liam felt a small pang of sadness for Bruno, but he also felt hope that together they could create a new beginning. Liam decided that he would visit Bruno every day after school. He wanted to bring toys, treats, and stories to share. Most importantly, he wanted to be a friend who saw Bruno for who he truly was, not for his age or appearance. Bruno, in return, seemed to understand that he had found someone who would never judge him. Later in the afternoon, Liam's mother helped him prepare a small blanket and a few treats to leave at the shelter. "He will like this," Liam said, folding the blanket carefully. Bruno sniffed the blanket as Liam placed it in his pen, then curled up gently on it. His tail wagged slowly as he rested his head, feeling comforted by the little gifts from his new friend. The shelter volunteers were amazed at what Liam had done. They had seen many children visit the shelter, but none had formed such a deep and caring bond with an older dog. Bruno, who had been ignored for so long, now had a special place in someone's heart. The volunteers realized that this friendship could inspire others to see the value in older dogs too. When it was time to leave, Liam hugged Bruno carefully. "See you tomorrow, Bruno. We will have more fun then." Bruno lifted his head and gave a soft, happy bark, his way of saying goodbye. Liam's mother smiled, noticing the joy and confidence in her son. Liam waved to the volunteers and promised to return the next day as they walked home. Liam could not stop talking about Bruno. "Mom, he is amazing. He is smart and kind, and he has so much love to give. I think he is very special." His mother nodded, happy to see her son so passionate about helping an animal in need. "Yes, Liam, he is very special, and so are you for seeing that." Back at the shelter, Bruno lay on the blanket, thinking about the little boy who had come into his life. For the first time in many months, he felt truly happy. He had a friend who cared for him, someone who made him feel alive again. Bruno's tail thumped softly against the floor, a silent promise to be the best companion he could be. The next few days passed in a similar way. Liam visited Bruno after school, bringing small toys, treats, and stories. He played gentle games with him, brushed his fur, and even read aloud from his favorite books. Bruno responded with quiet joy, following Liam's instructions slowly but carefully, and enjoying every moment of attention. Other children began to notice the bond between Liam and Bruno. They watched as the old German Shepherd came alive in the presence of a kind and patient friend. Some children asked their parents about adopting older dogs. Inspired by the way Liam treated Bruno, the shelter volunteers began to see a small change in the way visitors viewed the older animals. Bruno had waited patiently for months, and now he was finally rewarded. He had found someone who loved him for who he was, someone who saw beyond his age and gray fur. And Liam had found a friend, a loyal companion who would always listen, always be patient, and always be there for him. By the end of the week, Bruno's spirit had lifted even more. He moved around the shelter with a little more energy and wagged his tail more often. The volunteers noticed the change and smiled. They had seen the power of kindness and the magic that could happen when someone truly took the time to care for an older dog. Liam continued to visit Bruno every day, and their friendship grew stronger. They were no longer just a boy and an old German Shepherd. They were companions, partners in small adventures, and friends who understood each other without words. Bruno had been ignored for so long, but now, with Liam's gentle heart, he was finally seen. And in the quiet corners of the shelter, a special bond had begun, one that would change both the boy and the dog forever. By the middle of the following week, Liam and Bruno had formed a bond that was visible to everyone at the shelter. Each afternoon, Liam arrived with a bright smile and a small backpack filled with toys, treats, and sometimes a storybook. Bruno would see him from his corner and wag his tail slowly, his gray fur glinting in the sunlight that fell through the windows. He was always ready for the boy's gentle attention. One day, the shelter volunteers had organized a small event for visitors. They wanted to showcase the animals and encourage adoptions. People walked around, talking quietly and looking at the dogs and cats. Some stopped at the puppies who barked and jumped excitedly. Others admired the kittens with their soft fur and playful movements. Yet many of the older dogs still sat quietly in their pens, watching the world go by. Bruno was among them, his head resting on his paws, calm and patient as usual. Liam arrived as usual, carrying a small ball he had found at home. As soon as Bruno saw him, his tail lifted and he walked carefully toward the pen door. Liam knelt down and opened the door. "Come on, Bruno, let's have some fun today," he said with a smile. Bruno stepped out, his paws making soft sounds on the floor. He sniffed the ball, nudged it with his nose, and then pushed it gently toward Liam. Volunteers and visitors began to notice. There was something special about the way the boy and the old German Shepherd interacted. Bruno's movements were slow, but there was a happiness in his eyes that drew attention. Liam threw the ball gently, and Bruno carried it back carefully, placing it at Liam's feet. The little demonstration of teamwork and trust started to catch the interest of other visitors. One woman, named Mrs. Turner, stopped and watched the pair for several minutes. She had come to the shelter to look at younger dogs for her grandchildren, but something about Bruno and Liam made her pause. "Look at him," she said softly to her daughter. "Even though he is older, he is so calm and happy. That little boy really cares for him." Liam did not notice her at first. He was fully focused on Bruno, rolling the ball, stroking his fur, and speaking in his gentle voice. "Good boy, Bruno, you are doing so well today. See, everyone is noticing how smart and kind you are. Liam said, patting Bruno's head. Bruno wagged his tail in response, his eyes bright and full of life. Suddenly, Bruno did something remarkable. When Liam threw the ball a little farther, Bruno ran after it with more energy than anyone had expected from an older dog. He picked up the ball, trotted back carefully, and dropped it right at Liam's feet. The volunteers and visitors gasped softly. It was a simple act, but it showed that Bruno was capable of more than people realized. Liam laughed with delight. "Good job, Bruno. You are amazing," he said. Bruno wagged his tail slowly, proud of his accomplishment. The boy's encouragement seemed to give him a new sense of confidence. He stood taller, moved with a little more strength, and even barked softly, a sound full of happiness. The volunteers began to clap quietly, and some of the visitors started asking questions about Bruno. "Is he available for adoption?" One woman asked. "He looks so gentle and smart. I never thought an older dog could be so wonderful." The shelter staff smiled. "Yes, he is," one volunteer replied. "Bruno has been at the shelter for many months. Most people overlook older dogs, but he is very loyal and kind, and it seems he has made a special friend already." Liam's mother knelt beside him, whispering softly, "Liam, look at him. People are noticing Bruno because of you." Liam smiled proudly. "I just like him, Mom. I want him to be happy. I think everyone should see how special he is." As the day continued, more visitors came to see Bruno. Some of them asked if they could pet him. Liam encouraged them gently, showing how calm and friendly Bruno could be. The old German Shepherd responded to each touch with patience and warmth. Slowly, people began to understand that age did not mean weakness. Bruno was proof that older dogs still had a lot to give. During a quiet moment, Liam and Bruno walked to a small garden area outside the shelter. Liam threw a stick lightly, and Bruno picked it up, carrying it back carefully. Liam clapped his hands and said, "You are the best. Bruno, I am so proud of you." Bruno wagged his tail slowly, enjoying every moment of the boy's attention. That afternoon, something even more incredible happened. A local newspaper photographer had come to the shelter to cover the event. When he saw Liam and Bruno together, he was immediately drawn to their story. He took several pictures of the boy and the dog playing with the ball and walking together in the garden. Bruno's gentle expression and Liam's joyful smile created images that seemed to capture the true spirit of friendship. The photographer spoke to the volunteers and Liam's mother. "This story is amazing," he said. "An older dog, often ignored, being loved and cared for by a child. People need to see this. I think it will inspire others to adopt older animals who have been waiting for so long." Liam's mother nodded, smiling proudly at her son. Liam just looked at Bruno, who was resting his head on his knees, and whispered softly, "We did something good today, didn't we, Bruno?" Bruno lifted his head slightly and gave a soft bark, as if to say yes. By the end of the day, Bruno had received more attention than ever before. People were asking questions about his history, his health, and his personality. They were surprised to learn that he was gentle, intelligent, and full of love. The volunteers were amazed at how a small boy's kindness had transformed the way people saw an older dog. Bruno was no longer invisible. He was special, and everyone could see it. Liam felt proud, but he was more concerned with Bruno's happiness than the attention they were receiving. He spent the last few minutes of the day sitting on the floor, stroking Bruno's fur and whispering softly, "You are my friend forever, Bruno. I will always come back to see you," he said. Bruno leaned against him, resting his head on Liam's lap, completely content. That evening, when Liam and his mother left the shelter, volunteers discussed what had happened. "I have never seen anything like this," Clara said. "An older dog, ignored for so long, now being noticed because of a little boy. It is truly amazing." Another volunteer added, "It shows that kindness and patience can change everything. Bruno just needed someone to see him for who he really is." Back at home, Liam could not stop talking about Bruno. "Mom, did you see how happy he was? People were watching him and smiling. He is amazing. I think everyone should meet him," he said excitedly. His mother smiled. "Yes, Liam, you did something very special. You gave Bruno a chance to shine." The next day, the newspaper published an article about Liam and Bruno. The pictures captured the friendship perfectly. People from the town read the story and were inspired. Some came to the shelter hoping to meet Bruno, others to see if there were older dogs they could help or adopt. The little boy's simple act of kindness had created something incredible, not just for Bruno, but for many other animals who had been overlooked at the shelter. Bruno felt a new sense of pride and joy. He had waited patiently for months, and now his life was changing in ways he could not have imagined. He was no longer alone. He had a friend in Liam, and through that friendship, he had found the attention, love, and respect he deserved. For Liam, the experience taught him something valuable as well. He learned that age did not define worth, that patience and kindness could change the world, and that even the smallest gestures could create incredible results. He was proud of Bruno, but he also felt proud of himself for being a good friend. That night, as Liam went to sleep, he thought about the day and the moments that had made him happy. He dreamed of walking with Bruno, playing in the garden, and seeing smiles on people's faces as they discovered how wonderful the old German Shepherd truly was. Bruno, resting peacefully in his pen, seemed to share the same dream. He had waited for a friend like Liam, and now he had found one. Together, they had begun something extraordinary, and the best was yet to come. The days after the newspaper article were full of excitement at the shelter. Visitors came not only to see the playful puppies but also to meet Bruno, the old German shepherd who had captured everyone's hearts. The volunteers had never seen such attention for an older dog before. Each morning, Bruno would sit patiently in his pen, tail wagging slowly as he waited for Liam to arrive. Liam, as always, came after school, carrying a small backpack filled with toys, treats, and sometimes a storybook. As soon as he walked into the shelter, Bruno perked up. He could hear the soft steps of Liam approaching and immediately stood, moving carefully toward him. Liam knelt down and opened the pen door. "Hello, Bruno. Are you ready for another adventure today?" he asked cheerfully. Bruno wagged his tail, pressing his head against Liam's shoulder. That afternoon, the volunteers decided to hold a small demonstration in the shelter yard. They wanted to show visitors how well Bruno responded to kindness and patience. Liam agreed to help, and he and Bruno became the center of attention. Liam threw a soft ball across the yard, and Bruno retrieved it carefully, placing it at Liam's feet each time. The visitors watched in awe. Many people were amazed that an older dog could still move with such care and intelligence. They saw how Bruno responded to Liam's gentle voice, how he wagged his tail in happiness, and how he seemed to understand every word. The volunteers explained to the visitors that Bruno had been overlooked for months, and yet here he was, full of life and ready to show his love. A little girl approached the pair, shyly holding a small plush toy. "Can I give him this?" she asked Liam. Liam smiled warmly. "Of course. Bruno will like it very much," he said. Bruno sniffed the toy gently and nudged it with his nose toward the little girl. She laughed softly and patted his head. Bruno leaned into her touch, careful and calm. Liam whispered, "See, Bruno, people like you are special." Throughout the afternoon, more visitors came to watch Bruno and Liam. Some asked the volunteers about adopting older dogs. The volunteers explained that older dogs were often overlooked but could be loyal, intelligent, and full of love. Bruno, with his gentle eyes and calm manner, became a perfect example of this. Liam stayed with him, showing everyone how patient care and friendship could bring out the best in a dog. Then something truly incredible happened. A small boy, about Liam's age, approached the yard with his father. He had seen the newspaper article and wanted to meet Bruno. "Mom and Dad told me about him," he said softly. "I wanted to see the dog that everyone is talking about." Liam smiled and said, "Come on over. Bruno is very friendly." Bruno, sensing the excitement of a new friend, walked slowly toward the boy. He sniffed the child's hand and pressed his nose gently against it. The boy laughed softly. "He is amazing," he said. Liam nodded. "Yes, he is. And he is very kind too." The volunteers and visitors watched as the two boys and the old German shepherd played together. Liam threw the ball lightly, and Bruno carried it carefully to the new boy. The boy laughed, patting Bruno's head and stroking his fur. Bruno wagged his tail slowly, enjoying the attention from another child, while remaining loyal to Liam. That it was a moment that captured the hearts of everyone at the shelter. The sight of an older dog, once ignored and overlooked, now surrounded by love and admiration, was inspiring. The volunteers realized that Liam had not only changed Bruno's life but also shown everyone a valuable lesson. Age did not determine worth, and every animal deserved care and attention. As the sun began to lower in the sky, Liam and the new boy sat with Bruno in the garden area of the shelter. Liam's mother and the new boy's father watched quietly. "Look at him," Liam said softly. "He is so happy. He has waited a long time for someone to notice him, and now everyone can see how wonderful he is." Bruno rested his head on Liam's lap, glancing at the new boy, and then back at Liam. It was as if he was saying thank you to the little boy who had changed his life. After a few more minutes of gentle play, Liam suggested they walk Bruno around the yard one more time. Both boys held onto the leash carefully, guiding him as he moved slowly but steadily. Bruno sniffed the flowers, the grass, and the soft earth beneath his paws. His tail wagged gently, showing pure joy. Visitors stopped to watch, many of them smiling at the incredible transformation of a dog who had once been overlooked. The volunteers noticed that Bruno was behaving differently than before. He seemed more confident, more aware of his surroundings, and more comfortable with attention from people. His body language showed that he trusted not only Liam but also the world around him. Liam's gentle care had opened a door for Bruno to experience happiness that he had not felt in a long time. Later, the volunteers decided to organize a small group activity. Children could spend time with different dogs, learning how to be patient and kind. Liam was excited to help, and he brought Bruno to the front. He showed the other children how to approach the dog gently, how to speak softly, and how to offer toys and treats. Bruno responded to each child carefully, leaning into their touch and wagging his tail slowly. By the end of the day, the shelter was buzzing with happiness. People were talking about Bruno, asking questions about adopting older dogs, and expressing admiration for Liam's patience and kindness. Bruno, once overlooked and ignored, was now the star of the shelter. His gentle nature, combined with Liam's care, had created a story that inspired everyone. As the children left, Liam sat with Bruno on the soft grass, You did so well today, he said softly, stroking the dog's fur. Bruno rested his head on Liam's lap, eyes half closed, content and peaceful. I think everyone understands now how special you are, Liam whispered. Bruno gave a soft, happy bark, as if agreeing with him. Liam's mother knelt beside him. You have done something amazing, Liam. Not only did you make Bruno happy, but you also showed everyone that older dogs can be just as wonderful as young ones. Liam smiled proudly. I just wanted him to be happy. He is my friend, Mum. I wanted people to see him like I do. As they prepared to leave the shelter, Liam promised Bruno he would return the next day. Bruno followed him to the gate, tail wagging, eyes bright and full of trust. The volunteers waved goodbye, feeling grateful for the small boy whose kindness had created something extraordinary. That night, as Liam went to sleep, he thought about all the moments he had shared with Bruno, the walks, the gentle games, the quiet moments of companionship. Each one had strengthened their bond. He dreamed of the days ahead, filled with laughter, play, and more chances to show people the joy that an older dog could bring. Back at the shelter, Bruno lay on his soft blanket, tail thumping gently against the floor. He had waited patiently for a long time, and now he had found not only a friend but a way to show the world his worth. For the first time in months, he felt proud of himself. He had become an example of love, patience, and resilience, thanks to the little boy who believed in him. The next morning, volunteers noticed that visitors were asking specifically to see Bruno. Some had even brought treats and small toys for him, inspired by the story of the boy who had shown him care. Bruno greeted each visitor calmly, wagging his tail and resting his head gently on their hands. Liam arrived shortly after and knelt down. Good morning, Bruno. Are you ready for another wonderful day? He asked softly. Bruno responded with a gentle bark, standing carefully and following Liam into the yard. The shelter had become a place of hope and inspiration, all because of the friendship between a little boy and an older German shepherd. People began to see the value of patience, kindness, and love. Bruno, once ignored and overlooked, now had the chance to be truly seen and appreciated. And so, their story continued, filled with small moments of joy, growing friendships, and the incredible power of simple acts of love. Bruno and Liam had not only changed each other's lives, they had begun to change the hearts of everyone who came to the shelter. The days passed quickly, and Bruno continued to grow happier and more confident at the shelter. His bond with Liam had become stronger with every visit. The once quiet German shepherd who had been ignored by everyone was now the center of attention, not because he was young or playful, but because he was gentle, loyal, and full of love. One morning, Liam arrived at the shelter earlier than usual. He had brought a small bag filled with treats, toys, and a blanket he had sewn with his own hands. His mother smiled as she watched him kneel beside Bruno's pen. Good morning, Bruno, Liam said cheerfully. Bruno wagged his tail slowly and leaned into the boy's touch. The volunteers noticed that Bruno seemed different that day. He was standing taller, his eyes brighter, and his movements steady. It was clear that Liam's constant care and attention had helped him feel stronger, both physically and emotionally. Liam had been thinking about something very important. He wanted Bruno to leave the shelter and come home with him. For weeks he had imagined playing in his backyard, going on walks, and sharing meals with a dog who had become his best friend. But he also wanted to be sure that Bruno would be happy and comfortable in a new home. Mom, Liam said softly as he stroked Bruno's fur. I think it is time for Bruno to come home with us. He has waited for so long. He deserves a family who loves him. His mother nodded, touched by the boy's compassion. I think you are right, Liam. He is special, and he deserves a home where he can feel safe and loved. The volunteers were thrilled when Liam shared his plan. They had watched the friendship between the boy and the old German shepherd grow and understood how much Bruno had changed because of Liam's care. Bruno will be so happy, one volunteer said. You have given him a chance to show everyone what a wonderful dog he is. The adoption process began, and Bruno was given a checkup by the shelter's veterinarian. He was healthy, though a little older and slower than younger dogs. Liam waited patiently, talking softly to Bruno, who sat calmly beside him, tail wagging gently. It was clear that Bruno trusted Liam completely. After the paperwork was completed, the volunteers opened the pen door. Bruno stepped out carefully, looking around the shelter one last time. He sniffed the familiar scents and gave a small, gentle bark. Liam knelt down and hugged him softly. It is time for your new adventure, Bruno. We are going to be happy together, Liam said. Bruno leaned into him, as if understanding every word. Outside, Liam's mother had prepared the car for Bruno. A soft blanket covered the seat, and a small water bowl was ready for him. Bruno climbed in carefully, sniffing the new surroundings. Liam sat beside him, patting him gently. Are you ready, Bruno? We are going home, he said softly. Bruno gave a small bark, wagged his tail, and rested his head on Liam's lap. The drive to their home was calm. Bruno looked out the window, taking in the sights and smells. He seemed curious but not scared. Liam spoke to him quietly, telling him about his new room, the backyard where they could play, and the cozy spot he had prepared for him. Bruno listened attentively, tail moving slowly, his eyes filled with trust and contentment. When they arrived home, Liam opened the door, and Bruno stepped inside carefully. The house smelled different from the shelter, but it was warm and inviting. Liam guided Bruno to a small bed near the living room, placing his blanket gently on it. Bruno sniffed the bed and curled up, resting his head on the soft surface. He looked up at Liam and gave a small bark, as if to say thank you. Over the next few days, Bruno adjusted to his new home. He explored the backyard, sniffing every corner and enjoying the sunshine. Liam played with him gently, throwing soft toys and walking with him slowly around the yard. Bruno followed him eagerly, yet carefully, showing that he was learning to trust his new surroundings. Liam's mother prepared meals for Bruno and gave him water in a clean bowl. She watched as the boy and the dog bonded even more. "You did something wonderful, Liam," she said softly. "You gave Bruno a family, love, and a chance to be happy. You have changed his life forever." Liam smiled proudly. "He changed mine too, Mom. I have learned how special older dogs can be, and how much love they have to give." Bruno quickly became a part of the family. He enjoyed quiet evenings with Liam, lying beside him while he read storybooks or did his homework. He went on gentle walks with Liam and his mother, exploring the neighborhood and meeting new people. Each day, Bruno grew more confident, his tail wagging more often, his eyes shining with joy. Neighbors began to notice the old German Shepherd who had once been ignored and were amazed at the transformation. They would stop to greet Bruno, and he would respond calmly, wagging his tail and leaning gently into their hands. Liam would smile proudly and explain how Bruno had been at the shelter for many months, overlooked and ignored, until they had found each other. One afternoon, Liam took Bruno to the local park. Other children gathered around, curious about the gentle old German Shepherd. Liam threw a ball lightly, and Bruno retrieved it carefully, placing it at his feet. The children were amazed at how well Bruno responded, and they listened intently as Liam explained how patience, kindness, and care had helped him trust and feel happy again. The story of Liam and Bruno spread throughout the town. People were inspired by the friendship between a little boy and an older dog. Many visited the shelter to meet older animals and consider adopting them. Volunteers noticed that more older dogs were finding homes, and they credited Liam's compassion for opening hearts and minds. Back at home, evenings were filled with quiet joy. Liam and Bruno would sit together in the living room, sharing small moments of happiness. Liam read stories aloud while Bruno rested his head on his lap. They played gentle games in the backyard, walked slowly through the neighborhood, and shared peaceful moments in the garden. Each day Bruno became more lively, happier, and more confident, while Liam learned the power of patience, kindness, and love. One day Liam's mother asked, "Do you think Bruno is happy now?" Liam looked at the dog who was lying on his blanket, eyes half closed, tail moving gently. "Yes, Mom," he said softly. "He is not just happy, he is alive again. He waited so long for someone to see him, and now he has a home, a friend, and love. He is perfect." Bruno had indeed found his forever home. The old German Shepherd who had been ignored at the shelter was now loved and cared for every day. He had waited patiently, and in the end, his patience had been rewarded with a family who appreciated him, a little boy who adored him, and a life filled with warmth and happiness. Liam and Bruno continued to create memories together. They explored the neighborhood, helped in small ways around the house, and shared quiet evenings full of comfort and trust. Bruno had taught Liam valuable lessons about kindness, patience, and seeing the true value in everyone, no matter their age or appearance. And so, the story of the old German Shepherd who had once been ignored ended in the happiest way possible. Bruno had a home, a friend, and a life full of love. Liam had a loyal companion, a teacher in patience and kindness, and a friend who would be by his side for many years. Their friendship had not only changed their lives but had inspired an entire community to see the magic of giving love and care to those who needed it most. In the end, it was a simple act of kindness, a little boy's heart, and an old dog's patience that created something extraordinary. Bruno and Liam had found each other, and together, they had discovered the true meaning of friendship, loyalty, and love.